Recognize that guy. It's Tom. He's got the Rad Mobile Services truck and he's brought some RadMissions just for us. I'm pretty excited about this. Hey buddy.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, good. Yeah, I think it's a little ways off.
Yeah.
It's nice to get a first look here. Hey guys, we're hanging out in the park.
Hi.
Judy's along for the ride. Check it out, we got 2 RadMissions. We're checking these out today. I've actually been riding around on this quite a bit lately and having a blast. It's the most affordable bike from Rad Power Bikes. It's also their lightest weight electric bike, especially if it's naked like this one. This is how it comes, and I've laid it on its side because it does not come with a kickstand. For me, I was like, you know, bummer, like what's the deal? I like having a kickstand. At the same time, that adds a little bit of weight and some cost. And what stood out to me about how they designed this bike is that the drivetrain is just super solid. It's a single speed, but instead of doing a horizontal dropout, which is a little bit finicky to adjust, you have to, like, you know, push the wheel back and then tighten it, and maybe there's some bolts that push it forward and backward. It's just more complex. They were able to use like a vertical dropout, and then they've got this nice chain tensioner, and see how that's inside of the right chainstay? Very tough. So normally you're supposed to lay a bike down just like this on the non-drivetrain side. However, they've got these awesome 180 millimeter mechanical disc brakes, and you also don't want that to like bump something and get bent, because then it can create that like whooshing sound. It'll, you know, kind of scuffs on each revolution. So you know, again, this is not best practices in the bicycle world, but I think this is one of the few bikes that you can actually lay down on this side and feel really confident about it. For me as a reviewer, like, this is kind of fun because usually I'm just looking at the other side of the bike. But check this out, they've got a little torque arm right here, which is great. This is an aluminum alloy lightweight frame, and it's a very powerful motor. So this is like an in-house motor that Rad Power Bikes has done, and they've customized it to be extra powerful. They've got their branding on it and everything. This is 500 watt planetary geared motor, which freewheels very efficiently, but with the gearing, it gives you a lot of torque, 50 Newton meters of torque, and it's effective. I was riding around the neighborhoods. We're in Coquitlam, and you can see it's hilly around here. I was riding up a hill. Yeah. I stopped halfway up, and I could use the throttle, and it did it just fine. I was amazed, because without gears, you're kind of like, I hope it works. I don't want to, you know, like, sometimes you have to get off. It's so much work. So in this case, that 50 Newton meters of torque on the motor, very effective. I mentioned the brakes before. Having those 180 millimeter rotors gives you a lot of stopping power and cooling power. It gives you a great mechanical advantage over these really interesting wheel size. So a lot of times in the past, I'd see like 26-inch wheels or 28-inch wheels, or, you know, 700C. This is right in the middle, 650B, 27.5 by 1.95. So it's a little bit wider, and that gives you some stability if you're on gravel like this. It also gives you some more comfort because there's higher air volume. The PSI rating is 40 to 65. And for someone like me, you know, I only weigh 135 pounds. I like to drop that down and get some comfort. You'll notice this bike does not have a suspension fork. Rad Power Bikes does sell a suspension seat post option, upgrade if you want, but the standard seat post, it's another area where there's good attention to detail. This is like 390 millimeters tall versus most seat posts are like 350. So these bikes, they come in 2 different sizes, which for a $1,000 bike is pretty unheard of. This is like the large, high step, you know, standard diamond frame, and then they got this mid step, kind of mixte if you're in Europe, and it is actually a smaller frame size. So that's perfect if you're someone who's a little bit more petite. And they've got 6 colors between the 2 different models. So this is one of the bright, super fun, like red colors, and, you know, fun branding and everything. Both of these are purpose built. You can see how that down tube is stepped in a little bit and it's flat. So mounting that battery pack is really solid. It keeps the weight low and center. This is pretty balanced frame front to rear, in part because they went with a steel fork. So if we come back over here, this is solid. I mean, it's thick, it's sturdy. I actually asked the founders about this. I was like, you know, this bike weighs 47.8 pounds without any accessories. That kind of seems like a lot for a single speed. And they said, well, you know, we've got all these extra attachment points and we really want to support them well. So see how there's, like, this is the steer tube right here, and you mount that basket directly to the steer tube, which is how you want to do it. If you mounted it to the fork, or if you've got a basket hanging off, that totally changes your steering, and it's just really not the right way to do it. You can't handle as much weight. So by having it mounted to the steer tube like this, it stays in line with the bike, and it's actually supported by the entire frame. But in order to support that weight, and up to 275 pounds total, this bike is rated pretty high in terms of weight capacity. So if you're a heavier rider or something like that, or you've got both of the rack options like we see here, it's going to handle that. Steel tends to dampen vibration and just be extra strong. So that's why. So yeah, the frame does weigh a little bit more, but you've got all these different options, and it's just bulletproof the way they've designed that single speed. They've also got a chain guide down here, this 50-tooth steel chainring with aluminum alloy guide plates on either side, so the chain won't skip off. And there's really, I mean, it's pretty tight, but there's like this tensioner that keeps it tight. You really shouldn't have any problem with the chain falling off. They even went with a DNP nickel-coated 16-tooth cog in the rear, and it's the kind of setup where you can pedal backwards. So this is not a fixie. It's really nice to just coast on this thing or pedal backwards if you want to. The bolts, I mentioned earlier, they've got this like steel torque arm and stuff, but everything on this is pretty standard otherwise, like 135 millimeter hub spacing, 100 up front with a quick release skewer, 9 millimeter quick release skewer right there. A lot of other little things, like see how this is a threaded metal connector, and it's got a little washer right there. That's going to make this more water resistant. Things like that. The light, see how it's mounted to the stem on this bike? For me, that's a huge deal. If you get the basket, you can move it up here, which means you're not going to block the light. Like imagine you've got a basket full of kitties or something, like maybe some groceries or flowers. You don't want to lose your safety. But one trade-off is that now it's fixed. It only points really forward in line with the bike, versus this setup over here. See, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. See, it points right where you steer. So I'm actually a fan of sort of the base setup here. I might spend the extra $15 for a kickstand just because that's sort of my style. Park it in the garage. You don't want this like tipping into a car or something. But if you're a student and it's like, I don't need the weight, I don't need that like brrr, brrr sound when you go over rocks or something, this is the kind of bike. It reminds me of being a kid. You just sort of throw it on the ground. And now there is the risk that when you're tossing your bike on its side, these plastic pedals could crack or just get chewed up over time, when all of the other Rad Power bikes currently offer aluminum alloy pedals, and now they're selling those pedals in an array of colors back at the website. So that's something you could think about matching or upgrading to. The plastic ones are a little bit lighter, but cheaper. So okay, I'm gonna go over some of the other little things that make this stand out to me. These are 12 gauge spokes, so extra thick, 36 hole rims, black matching spokes, matches the hub and the rims. That's nice. A lot of other like more affordably priced bikes just go with silver. They aren't as intentional with all the black accents. And they gave me the gray color here, which looks really nice. It's kind of neutral, sort of professional, but you can see the wires a little bit more, and there's quite a few wires up here because you got the light and the display. Both brake levers have motor inhibitors, so whenever you pull those, not only do you get physical stopping power, but the motor shuts off and it activates the rear light. So I'm going to try to do that right now. Look at that. Very cool. So it goes bright mode if the lights are on, and if the lights are off, it comes on. That is wonderful, especially in combination with those reflective tires right there and puncture protected. And that's another really big advantage, because as a kid I would ride across like the fields and you get like goat heads and thorns. Have you ever had a flat tire, Judy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's no fun, right?
Yeah, because I have to fix it, but I can't fix that by myself, so I have to
get some help or something like that. Speaking of that, these are direct consumer bikes. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Rad Power bikes, I've been covering for years, and part of the way they get the lower price point is you order it online and they ship it to you. But unlike a lot of other companies, they've got like 3 or 4 outlets in the US, Canada, and Europe. You can actually go in and test ride it and like pick it up from there. Now, if you're not in one of those cities, but you're in some other major cities, they have this like mobile delivery van that will come and bring it to you and assemble it. So that's really nice. They have a year-long comprehensive warranty. All their battery packs and stuff are cross-compatible. In fact, they use a lot of the same accessories. The RadMission that you see here, this basket, it was kind of designed and launched around the time that this bike was, and so it's really well suited to this particular model, but it works with the other bikes. And they have other platform tray racks and stuff. This rack is really only for the RadMission right now, and it's partially because they have these steeper seat stays going on. But look at how well they've done this. They got bungee loops, they got pannier hangers, and then they've got this deck which could support a trunk bag, or you can see these eyelets here. You could add one of their like other basket accessories. They have all kinds of bags and, you know, insulated bags and stuff that you can get. Notice that we were able to position that rear light back here now versus on the base model without any accessories. They've got this little riser so it keeps it up and above the tire, but they didn't put it on the saddle or anything, which can get blocked if you're wearing a jacket. There's a lot of little things that are kind of easy to forget or just not know when you're making bikes, but these guys have been doing it for so long, they've really nailed it. Other examples include bottle cage bosses down here. It's not perfect, you'd have to reach way down to get your bottle, but at least it's there. And frankly, I'd probably put a folding lock or some other accessory down there. And then we've also got a frame lock mounting point right here on the seat stays, and so it's this C thing that kind of like locks the rear wheel for making a quick errand. I love that they've gone with this extra large like seat clamp right here. Look how big that is. So it gives you leverage. You're not gonna have to hurt your fingers trying to pry this tiny little thing. That is, you know, that's something that like hardly anyone else does, and it doesn't really cost that much. I mentioned before you could get the seat post suspension. This is 27.2 millimeter, very standard, and they've gone with a very active saddle here. This is from Velo, and it's very comfortable, but it's a little bit narrower and sportier than some of the other bikes like the Rad City and stuff, which, you know, those are the ones with the suspension, and it's just a little bit more upright and stuff. Although I should say, look at this nice sweep on the handlebar. They didn't just go with a flat handlebar. That's what I'm talking about. It's swept back a little bit. Look at these brakes. You've got this rubberized edge, which is not only comfortable, but a little bit warmer. If it's cold out, the metal gets cold too, but the rubber does not as much. Got an integrated bell right here. And mechanical disc brakes, they're a little bit easier to adjust yourself versus get somewhat hydraulic. You might have to go in and get them bled and stuff. I do prefer hydraulic, but we're back to the price trade-off and stuff. This right brake, the cable has to go further, which means that this one can require a little bit more hand effort to use, but for the most part it's good. And while we're down here, look at this kickstand. See that little silver thing right there? You can actually pull that and slide this up and down, so you're able to adjust it on the fly, which is fantastic. The pedal, it doesn't come anywhere near. You're probably not gonna get heel strikes on this while you're pedaling. It's very good. It's not gonna get pedal lock either. And then we've got our cadence sensor. This is my favorite one. This is a 14 pulse sealed cadence sensor. Some of the other Rad bikes have like a big circular disc with magnets on it, and it just feels a little bit more vulnerable, whereas this one's really tucked in. It's very precise. This is the motor controller, and they separated it purposefully from the battery to make the batteries a lot more affordable. So this is the 14 amp hour battery that comes with all the other Rad bikes, and I was like, please, like, I want to test this. Does it actually work? And it does. It fits even on the mid-step frame, so that's excellent. And these are, I think it was like $600 or something to replace those, which is really good. 672 watt hours, 48 volts of power, and that's part of why this motor is so torquey and capable. This is the battery that comes with the bike, so it's a little bit smaller, and again, back to price point and lightweight on these bikes. 48 volt, 10.5 amp hours, so 504 watt hours, which is like, yeah, it's kind of average, but the power that it delivers and the motor design is very effective. And again, thank goodness, because a single speed, you know, I got into e-bikes because I have sensitive knees, and I wanted something that could help me, you know, get to work and back each day without feeling the pain. And so I was like, yeah, an e-bike, that's a great idea. But then I bought like a really kind of fancy one, and I was like worried about it all day. You know, is it going to be safe? Even being able to remove that battery and take it into the office and charge it, you're going to be able to avoid extreme cold, extreme heat, which is going to help those cells last a little bit longer. The charger that comes with this bike, it only weighs about a pound. You can toss it in your backpack and charge it during the day if you want to. If I was someone who, maybe you have a car and you got one of those cheaper bike racks that like hangs, you're supposed to hang the bike off the back of your car, this high step's perfect for that, because there's tons of room in this triangle to hang on a bike rack, or some buses have that same thing. You could also get like a frame bag right here if you want to. Lots of possibilities, in addition to just the standard features that they've got here with the, you know, fender mounts and everything. While we're on that topic, let's talk about this. So I mentioned $9.99, that's US dollars. In Canada, it's $13.99. If you added all the accessories we see here, which is like kind of everything besides they have like a side mirror, this is like $1,300 with all these accessories. You know, each, it's like 89 bucks, 79 bucks. They all add a little bit. And the fenders, I do want to compliment these. They're plastic, but they're pretty solid, and they've got this rubber kind of mud flap on the front. So if you were pedaling and you kicked it, it's not going to get bent. I think they're kind of standard in a lot of ways, but they didn't use those mounting points where you've got like metal poking up that can scratch you. These are curved. They're not designed to be adjustable. It just fits. It just works. It provides enough space. It stays out of the way. Like, good job, Rad. And that's what I mean. They've really dialed these bikes in. And there are lots of attachment points and quick disconnects and things so that it feels modular. Like, if you have a problem with this bike, you can get a fix. Let's say you already own a Rad Power bike. You want to go further. You can take their standard 14 amp hour battery. You can use it with this bike. Like, it's really cool the way that this is just so, again, modular. I feel like I'm running out of steam here. I've covered almost everything. We've got a bunch of spacers, so you can flip the stem. If you want to get more aggressive, you can, you know, swivel up the handlebars and change your body position slightly. Take the saddle way down. I measured these extensively. I was studying the bikes, you know, back at home in my basement, and kind of like, whoa, how does this work? So all of those measurements, minimum saddle height, maximum saddle height, length, so you can figure out if it fits on your car rack. But in so many ways, these are just standard bicycles. What do you think so far, Judy?
Yeah, like it's like you can see like the wheel is larger than the last bikes that I tried, and also I prefer the basket.
You like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
what would you put in there? What would you put in there?
Like my bottles and some, like, you know, tissues or something.
Yeah.
I got a lot of stuffs to put. And like this one, is it like there's a cover or something?
You know, they do have bags that are waterproof. They have like a big bag and a small bag and an insulated bag.
That's great.
Rad Power Bikes actually makes bikes for like Domino's, and people use them to deliver. They have one called the Rad City. So for me, that's another sort of like validation point that the company does a good enough job with quality, and then they're also responsive enough with customer support. So half of this review is like sort of about the company, and then half of it is sort of about the product here. I mean, to be honest with you, if this was unbranded, I'd look at it and be like, you know, it's kind of heavy, it's a single speed. But then when you look closer at it, you're like, oh, but look at all the little things that they did so well. And frankly, $1,000, like, it's hard to buy an electric bike for under $1,000. And then know that the company's going to stick around to support you and stuff. So I think that's about it. Should we hop on these things, take them for a ride?
Sure.
Okay, sweet, thanks.
Rad mission, it's our mission to test the bike then.
That's right. Awesome. Okay, guys, I decided to hop on this thing first and walk you through the display panel. By the way, you do not have to leave the keys in. I'm going to take those out so they aren't jingling around. We just press a power button up here. This is like a super basic display. It's the same one that they use for the Rad Runner. Some of the other Rad Power bikes have like an LCD, and it gives you your current speed, like average speed, max speed, some other details. Similar battery capacity indicator. So this just uses like 5 LED lights. That one has like 5 LCD little gray ticks. And again, the battery has like a little, you know, 4-tick indicator on it, so you get a sense for how full it is even when it's not on the bike. Very reachable, plus, minus, and there is a walk mode. I should talk about that too. Check it out. So if you hold the minus button, the bike walks forward. I mean, this is a pretty swift walk. It's a little bit more of a jog. I don't know if that's a huge complaint. I think it comes back to how it's geared. This is geared a little bit high. I talked to the company about this because I like to spin, and I do like gears. So I was like, is it worth it? Like, you save $500, but you could get gears if you go a little higher, and I guess it's all personal preference. So 50-tooth chainring down here, 16 teeth on the rear, and it's geared to be high, meaning slower. And once you reach the 20-mile-per-hour top speed, it feels pretty comfortable at that speed. And thankfully, there's a throttle, so you know, getting up to speed isn't too difficult with the higher torque motor. So we got 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 pedal assist levels. The light indicator, and it just seems to come on by default, which is great in terms of safety, but I'm going to turn it off for a second and then show you that brake activation. Isn't that cool? So you can even see this one from the side a little bit, which is really nice. They're wired in, they run off that main battery pack, which is great. That's kind of it. I mean, it's a very simple display, and it might not attract as much unwanted attention. One thing that I I notice is that it feels bright. Sometimes there's no way to dim this. And I was like, maybe I can just put some like, you know, tape over it or something, like some painter's tape and mute it that way. But then I realized you can just like swivel it forward and now it's not really shining up in your eyes so much. So that was nice. This is not removable, but again, it does swivel a little bit. I think I'm just gonna hop on and do pedal assist a little bit so you can see how quickly it responds. I'm in the highest level of assist, so it's gonna be pretty quick. Okay, even though we're on gravel here, kind of a sandy, you know, just like a football field, it's feeling pretty stable. Feels pretty comfortable too, because I did take the tire pressure down a little bit before I started test riding it, just to add some comfort for myself. The body position is pretty comfortable too, kind of upright, full leg extension here. Woo! Can I hand it off? There we go. Urge. There we go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I was talking to Mike from Rad Power Bikes about these bikes and stuff, because we kind of go back a ways, and anytime they introduce a new bike, it's fun. I'm getting to review this before it's out on the market and ask him all these questions like, why steel fork? And we talked about the basket and everything. So Mike was like, you know, this just reminds me of being a kid. I had a single speed, like puffy type of bicycle where you're, you know, one gear and you just get it done. And my heart is still in that child like fun place, but it's sort of like my knees aren't as much. And that's why I love having a throttle, because it's just, you know, so I want to try to demonstrate that again. You just get on the bike, twist the throttle, no problem. And I feel like Rad Power Bikes does the throttle the right way, which is, you know, this is a variable speed. Like the further you twist it, the more power you get. And some other companies, it's really limited in power by what level of assist. So this one, you can put it in 0 if you want to. And when you do that, you got the lights and you got the throttle. You don't have to use the throttle if you don't want to, but it's not like your pedaling is going to activate pedal assist and surprise you. It's just, it's very intuitive. It's like a little scooter in that way. This is a class 2 electric bike. I did a little like intro. I keep looking for that kickstand. I guess you just lay it down. I did like a little intro video on this bike a while back, because you know, they did like an announcement or something. And I was like, is it class 1? Because I saw this 1 right here. But no, this is the first iteration of the RadMission. It's like first generation. So correcting myself right there. And I didn't notice at that time about the kickstand. A few people were like, oh, come on, why no kickstand? And it's like, well, you know, it's 15 bucks. And I guess I should say, this is sort of like a zero waste sort of approach. If you want those accessories, great, buy them. It's a few $100 and the bike will look just like this. If you don't and you're not going to use them, you get this, and at least you're not wasting them. You know, like, to me that kind of matters. The charger for these bikes, it's 2 amp and stuff, which is a little bit slower. It's another trade-off, but it's very reliable. It's back to like, why do they have an external controller? Keeps the heat separate from the battery. A lot of really, like, I guess, you know, durability minded is how I would come at this. So I think maybe we switch helmets and you can go for a ride. Sure. Are you excited?
I can't wait for testing it or riding it.
Did you think of any other questions while I was riding?
Questions? Yeah, I just came up with one question.
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering if the chain is gonna be rusted or...
Great question. Yeah, so this DNP, like nickel coated sprocket back here, that's a more expensive part, and this is a Z chain and it is rust resistant. You know, rust resistant. So I think over time, if it gets kind of scratched up or something, it could rust a little bit. And the steel chainring, maybe a little bit, but probably a lot less than some. And if you think about that derailleur and stuff and how it squeaks and has extra cables and how it's changing and maybe scuffing more, I actually think this is going to be, it's going to stay a little bit nicer over time. Because if you look at like the alignment of that chain, it's just like super straight. It's not being pulled side to side. You're probably never going to have like a chain break or something on you. Does that answer it?
Yeah.
Probably more than you needed. Yeah. You're like, okay, it's not going to rust. Okay, so Judy, hop on it before you turn it on, just because with the throttle, we don't want to accidentally bump it. So you're good. Just hop over the bike. Yep, stow the kickstand. Yep. This is great, yeah. And can you jump forward real quick and stand over the frame? So this is what it's pretty approachable, this frame. You're like 5.5 feet or something?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Okay, cool. Now that we're set, you could just turn it on. Great. It does this little dance. It's like do-do-do-do.
Interesting.
And then that's it. You throttle like you're used to, or pedal assist.
Okay. Here we go.
There you go. Nice. So it's the slow, steady cadence of the single speed. Nice job. Sweet. Oh, there we go. Now she's going for it with the throttle. Oh yeah, we got the bell going on. There's the headlight. I can see the brake light. Yeah, very nice. Okay, first impressions.
High five.
High five, you like it?
Yeah.
Is this worth $1,000 bucks? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, this one's
It's
13.
cheaper than the 4,000 one.
We looked at that, yeah, so no hate. You know, we've reviewed a bunch of other bikes, but this is really the perfect bike, I think, for like a student or someone who wants to leave their bike and not worry about it so much. I mean, at the end of the day, bikes can and do get stolen, even with a big lock, but at least you're not losing like a ton of money with this one.
Then my heart will break.
Oh my gosh, that would be that'd be a sad moment. Okay guys, you're all hooked up to the RadMission ST, and I think that kind of stands for step through, even though it's mid-step. You can see the 50-tooth steel chainring, 16-tooth cog in the rear. I'm going to pedal along with pedal assist. Again, that 14 pulse sensor is really responsive and just nice and clean, tight. You can listen for chain rattling or these fenders, again, optional fenders, just to see what kind of noise they might make. And then really just how responsive the motor is when I start and stop pedaling. At any time, you can override with the brakes, and then that'll cut the motor power. But I've been very impressed with the 500 watt motor here. It's more powerful than a lot of geared hub motors that I've tested, and that's really important if you're climbing or starting, and especially with the single speed. So let's do it. In the highest level of assist, level 4, just to make the motor noise more pronounced and to give us a climbing advantage. Pretty quiet. I was purposely going over like some rough stuff that you probably wouldn't normally do in a kind of an urban environment, and the fenders are tight, like really solid. Everything's feeling good. So I did use the throttle a bit there, so now I'm going to use pedal assist. Climbing a really steep hill right now. It's working great. Throttle. Nice. About halfway up the hill right now, and I'm going to try throttling from 0, or maybe just a little bit of a push forward, because this is like the real test. Like, what happens if you're relying on the throttle and it's a hill and you can't pedal because you're kind of in a higher gear. That's how this is set up. It's sort of a slower, relaxed cadence at the low speeds, and then it feels more comfortable and natural, like 84 pedal strokes per minute at the higher 20 mile per hour speed. So this is a good test. I am 135 pounds, so if you're heavier, your mileage may vary. You might need to kind of take the hill at an angle or kick off a little bit more, but once that motor starts going, it seems to do a surprisingly good job. Pretty impressed. Nice. You probably keep hearing that brake squeak. That can happen if you're like building a bike and you touch it with your hands, because like the grease from your hands, the oils can kind of get into the brake rotors and then the caliper, the brake pads and stuff. So try not to touch those disc brake rotors if you can help it. And then if you do get them dirty, I think people use like brake cleaner or alcohol or something and kind of clean the grease off that way. yeah, hope that helps you. This time I think I'm gonna go like full speed just to show what that looks like, and pedal cadence and everything. We made it to one of my favorite testing hills. We got a nice like flat runway and then fairly steep hill that sort of curves a little bit. The key is just to have some speed when you're riding, because once you get to the hill, you're relying quite a bit on the motor unless you actually stand up, in my experience with some of the... So here we go, there we go. Motor's kicking in. We're headed towards the hill. I'm in 2 right now, which is my favorite for riding around. Just the comfortable speed. And now the bike's doing pretty well. Starting to hear it. I'm losing speed. I don't know how fast I'm going, but I'm definitely losing speed right now. And my cadence is already really low. I'm just slugging along. This is when I would definitely be like in that higher level of assist, and I can feel it right away. So I'm making it. But if I was just in throttle mode, it would make it too. As long as you have speed. Now let's see what happens if I completely stop right here. You know, I'm like halfway up the hill and we just try to use the throttle from standstill. There we go. I'm impressed. I mean, this thing is, like I said, it's a zippy motor, 50 Newton meters of torque. That for me is one of the biggest like highlights of this bike, is that the motor is quite powerful for a hub motor. It's really not even that loud. Because with my knee sensitivity, if I was trying to like pedal this with no assist, let me just give you take it all the way down to 0. I mean, I'm almost immediately struggling and I would need to stand up. That's like as far as I can go without the motor assist. So just keep your eye on that battery gauge and think about your own, just your own situation. Everyone's a little bit different, but I hope that gives you some perspective, just how impressive these bikes are in terms of power. I think that's about it. For the full written review on the RadMission with all the specs and details, see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. We've also got some forums and a cool comparison tool. So you can look at this bike and you could compare it against maybe the Rad City. That's like the closest bike from Rad Power Bikes. And you know, you can make your decisions about cost and stuff. I love you guys. Ride safe out there, have fun. Welcome to e-bikes if you're new, because I feel like this is going to be a popular one for maybe people that felt like they couldn't afford e-bikes before, or, you know, just had never really seen one. I love that it comes in so many colors and that they chose to do 2 frame styles, because that costs money. Like, it's easy to overlook that, but I mean, you feel more comfortable on this one than the big one over there. So, you know, that's worth it. Anyway, ride safe out there. We'll see you next time. So we're back at the car getting ready to load these, and I was taking the battery off because I only have an 1.25 inch hitch right here and probably don't need the extra weight. I put the battery in the car and Judy was like, how do you get the battery off? So, you know, these batteries are pretty cool. They have like 3 spots. 1 is on and locked to the frame. 2 is off and locked to the frame. That way no one can tamper with your bike at the bike rack or something. And the 3rd one, you like push it in and then twist it, and now it's ready to be removed. And you can take the key out in any of these positions, but we'll just leave it in so we don't lose it. And now the difficult part, and maybe one of the trade-offs with this battery, is it's kind of tight sometimes. You have to like brace the frame. Do you want to try again? Sure. And you slide it forward. Be careful with your fingers and stuff. There you go, right? It takes a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
And then you want to be careful. This one's 7.7 pounds. I think the lighter one, the lower capacity that comes with it's like 6.3 or something. So again, this is like the higher capacity battery that I just asked to play with. 3 bolts right here for the slide track. Nicely done. And there's the stepped in frame I was talking about. Careful not to drop these. It does have 2 fuses in it. Oh no, Judy!
Kidding.
Yeah, this is expensive still. It's like $500 or $600 depending on which ones you get. And then yeah, extreme heat actually degrades the cells over time, whereas extreme cold just stuns it. It puts it to sleep for a while. So you really want like cool, dry location. And it looks like this battery's been through, you know, look at all the scratches and like
You did that?
No. This is like their loaner battery. Yeah. I'm gonna put this bike on, and I thought this would be cool to show you guys how I do this, because most e-bikes are kind of heavy and I don't want anyone to hurt their backs. So this is a Kuat rack that I like. They are not paying me to say this or anything. I actually bought this, but I got a pro deal, which was nice. So take the bike like this, and now I lock the rear brake and I pull back on the bike and I set the front wheel on the frame like this. And then all I have to do is lift the rear like that. So put that into the slot. Tuck this under like that. Yeah, so that's nice. Locks it just like this. And that's it. By doing it that way, you don't have to like hurt your back or like try to, it's just a lot easier. So hope that helps. I'm gonna do the other one real quick too. This one I'll try to do faster. This one matches my rack a little bit. And just lift up on the, there we go. There it is. Set it in the track. Even with fenders, this rack works pretty well. Just like tightens on the front wheel. Get this back thing through here, turn the wheel a little bit. And we're ready to go. Look at that, it even fits with the basket. I was a little worried about that, honestly. I was coming to the park to visit. Let me show them the, yeah, good spacing. So anyway, I use stuff that I like, including like the Sabis helmet. It's got a light up on top here. They gave me the helmet, of course, but this is good stuff. And I'm a big fan of safety, like with all the stuff that you see here, the reflections and stuff. So I think that's it. Are we done now? Did we get everything?
We did everything.
Rock on.